All right, everybody, welcome in. This is Real Talk with Spoon and Puddin, episode 4. I'm the one and only Big Spoon.
That was a piece of pudding.
A Puddin.
I'll be the pudding in your spoon.
What's going on this morning, Puddin?
Oh, another day, another week. What's your? See, you
I
having
got
problems?
I got a co-star.
Yes. Future taxpayer for all the adults' mistakes. No, so what is it that do you want me to go to my red book because I forgot it last week?
Hey, if that's where you want to start, go ahead.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there are plenty of places to start.
Go ahead.
Where
If
did
you didn't have
you
it
got
last
your?
week, you can go ahead.
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about your red book? Go ahead.
Well, you don't have your Bible with you.
I got Bibles sitting everywhere. I mean,
King James version.
yeah.
Oh well, tells you where to look, but we can hold that for later,
All right.
huh?
All right. Let's hold that for later. Well, where I was going to go this morning was talking about the federal income tax
Mm-hmm.
or the federal payroll tax
Yes.
to abolish that.
It will abolish it because it's number one immoral. It makes you part of slave.
And
Uh,
propose a reform because they shouldn't have been their paychecks to begin with.
no, it should never. Well, that's to me that's a violation of the 14th Amendment. I believe the Emancipation Proclamation. You're supposedly not a slave, but when the government gets their money before you do, isn't a portion of you a slave?
Of course,
So
they're
for
they're
me,
they're, they're telling you what they're going to allow you to have after
after
you put
they
after you
after
put
they
in your time work and they get their portion.
yeah, well, yeah. I mean, Red's not here right now. Maybe he'll pop in later. But
So
man,
all of us that are what we call the middle working class, we're all slaves to the
oh,
government system.
of course. But I mean, now even more under modern monetary theory. I mean, they just print the money that they need. So if that's the case, why do they even need to take any money out of our check? It's pretty simple to see that that's you know if they're going to head in that direction, well, get out of our paycheck.
Well,
We don't fund the government anyway. I mean, let's just face it, we don't. But
well, not when
we,
they sit and just print money, and devalue the American dollar.
you know, well, that's the whole point about it is that well, if you're going to just take money out of people's paycheck, and then that's doesn't fund what 5%, maybe 10% of all the money they spend anyway. Just get out of our paycheck altogether. Uh, a constitutional way and a way that is a choice for everyone would be a sales tax, nationwide federal sales tax, if they wanted to do that. And then everyone would know what they were sending up there. There'd be no refunds, which, that's a topic for a lot of people who, no refunds. Oh,
What do
suck
you
it up, Buttercup.
what do you need a refund for? If you're keeping, let's say, 90% of your money that the government's taking out of your payroll tax each week, and you're only paying it on sales tax, what do you need a refund for?
Well, it depends on the amount of the sales tax.
Because we reformed that and we abolished the payroll income tax, and we went to the flat sales tax for everybody, me,
Well,
you, corporations. The states already got theirs set. Like Tennessee's at
two,
9.35.
2.5 or 3.5, something
It's like nine
more in
three.
White House. So
So if you set it and say the government gets 10% sales tax on anything and everything you purchase.
well, I don't think that. I think food's immoral. I think Tennessee, as a Florida person, I never knew you had to pay tax on milk until I moved up here to Tennessee, and I was like, "What? Pay tax on everything?"
Yeah, you pay tax on
Yeah,
everything.
that's kind of to me, that's an infringement against your life.
And depending on what city is, some cities have their what they call their local tax.
Yeah,
So
no,
you're
White
paying
House is another one.
you're
That's why.
paying state tax and you're paying local tax on the food.
Yeah. Well,
So
no, that's again. It's funny how they took the 10-cent ammo tax off here in Tennessee. Uh, Here recently, a few years back, I remember. It was T-Rex Arms did that. They got with a local congressman down there, or a state congressman, and got that repealed and removed because they said that's a violation of your rights. You have a right to keep and bear arms, and they used that to get rid of the extra additional 10 cents per box ammo tax. I would say, don't you have a right to eat? Uh, a right to life. Well, if that's the case, then all the tax on groceries in Tennessee needs to change. I mean, lucky we live where we live, and when I want to buy a lot of groceries, I can just head on up to Kentucky.
good morning, Jetta, Brenda, Tammy.
That way, get on
Well,
up to get on up to Kentucky there, and you don't have to pay it.
Well, anybody who lives where we live, if they're smart, they're going to get anything.
If it's too expensive in gas, if you're only buying one meal or something, maybe it's not worth it. Just pay
right, but if you're going to get weekly or bi-weekly or monthly groceries, it's worth it to go up there just to save on the taxes.
Oh yeah. Well, we went to Sam's up there in Bowling Green that time. Bought a lot of stuff.
But I think if the average American would just would sit down and listen to the reform, I would think 98, 95% would be on board to abolish the income payroll tax, and the state get their tax, and then the government get their 10%, and they stay out of our paychecks.
Yeah, see, that was
you don't get a refund, but you get your money every week.
See, when me and Red first met, I was listening to Neil Bortz back then, and I was telling him, because I was a huge proponent of the fair tax, and we went down to was it Books a Million or something, and he went and grabbed Neil Bortz's book and he shown it to me, and I thought it was simplistic, and it wasn't. And basically, what Neil Bortz had proposed was a set percentage from your paycheck plus a sales tax, and then after many years of discussion with Red, to me it come down to no, it just needs to be a sales tax. It just needs to be, there's no reason, just stay out of our paycheck.
Why would you want to give a set amount of your paycheck to the government when, number one, they never should have been in your paycheck to begin with? It's theft, like you said. It's just another version of slavery.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to take as much as you give them, and I don't think the people understand. We outnumber them. They work for us, so we set the parameters.
Well, we do, but we haven't. We've let it go for over 100 years.
Well, I know that's what I'm saying. We need to take back and start setting those parameters and saying, look.
Well, I mean, when you like the people that I, really admired, like Ron Paul, when he was running in 2012, I admired the man, but he would go up there and he would talk about abolishing the income tax, and the reporters thought he was stupid, and they would stick microphones in his faces and say, well, how's the government supposed to run without, he's like, we built this city, DC, without an income tax. It's immoral, it's wrong.
We ran for 150 years without income tax, right?
No, not quite. I think it was like
130 years, 140 years, whatever it was.
Yeah, it depends on if you count the Constitution, or 120 something if you count the Constitution. We ran till like 1916, I think, is when the income tax got snuck into the Constitution and penciled on there as an amendment.
Brenda she made a perfect example of what we're talking about. They tax your paycheck, and she said,
and they tax you to everywhere else.
When you buy a car, they tax you, and then you got to pay wheel tax and get your tags.
I don't think used cars should ever be taxed.
But
The new car owner paid the tax.
but when that car, you can buy a new car, it could be sold 20 times.
There'll be a tax on it every time it's
Tax on
sold.
it every time. Good morning, Heather, Shannon.
But that's the taxes are, you know, that's the answer is January 6th. I mean, we kind of talked on that the other day. It was funny. It's like if that was a coup, that was just going to go down in history as the worst coup ever.
Well, of
You know
course.
what I mean? But the government's going to tell you it's a coup. Even Ted Cruz. You know, that's the bad part. It's like, really? I thought he was one of the good ones. I really don't think there's any of them that are good at this point.
Well, me and you both like Ron Paul, and I want to like Rand Paul, but he's nothing like his dad. I
No,
mean,
his dad.
he's got a few values, but he's part of the right wing Republicans, the same as the rest of them.
Well, I know Russell Brand brought him up and said his wife was doing some insider trading, with the stocks or something. And I said, well, there you go. That just goes to show that, eventually you find out even the ones you think are somewhat halfway decent are still corrupt.
They're all corrupt.
It's like you mean to tell me there's no law that says that you may have inside knowledge to know that this stock's going to go up or double or triple in value, and there's no law that says since you know that, but if you're Martha Stewart, right this way, come on, let's go to jail. You know.
Well, yeah, it depends on who you are.
Well, yeah, Martha Stewart goes to jail, but all the rest of them crooks stay up there. That's the one that just gets me to the point of wow. Well, the other thing I wanted to talk about was RT. I remember I told that to you the other day, but here's another freedom of speech violation from the big tech companies. Silence Russia today. I get it. It's going to be propaganda, but what is CNN? It's propaganda. What's the difference?
Who's trying to silence Russia?
YouTube took everything off.
Everything about Russia.
Everything. RT was they were a news company and Russia sponsored news company. I don't know. I'm sure they had some commercials or ad revenue, but
Well,
everybody.
It's good to know that YouTube's not just trying to silence me and you. They're trying to silence a lot of people, huh?
Oh well. It's like to me. I just when I see that, I say, well, if you're going to take them down, shouldn't you take CNN down? Or MSNBC? Take them down.
because they own a portion of those companies.
I don't know if they own a portion. I mean, I don't know the financials, but
CNN, the Clinton News Network,
take Fox off too and get them off.
That's
another
Democrat owned run.
But that's the thing when I get to, you sit there and you talk to people and you tell them, you're like, look, okay, Russia propaganda, Fox propaganda, CNN propaganda, it's out there. It is what it is. If you can't decipher the difference between the two, well, whose fault is that? Do you believe everything that comes out of the, one source and that's it? You won't look at anything else? I mean,
good morning, Donnie.
That's not being, educated or educating yourself.
Well, that's the big problem we have in this country at this day and age, that nobody wants to educate themselves. They all want to listen to the media, the ones that do listen, and they think because they went to a government indoctrined school that they can call themselves educated.
Because they went to a school that told them Christopher Columbus discovered America. Well, we know if you actually dive down into history, no, he didn't.
The Vikings, damn it, the Vikings.
I got you. I know you're a big Viking fan. I know how much you love your Vikings. To Valhalla.
Valhalla.
Mm-hmm.
But when you tell them that the powers that be are not going to tell you 100% the truth and teach you things to overthrow them. They look at you like you're a crazed maniac.
Mm.
Morning, Brett. Brenda says multiple sources and your own researches. Absolutely. But you can't get people to do that. Well, this I heard this and so said that. So what? Dig and dig and dig until you find.
Well, no, read a book, read another book, or these days it's even easier. Listen to an audio book, and then listen to another audio book. Listen to a few topics on the subject before you come up with the conclusion that makes the most sense in your own mind. But that's what I'm saying. Why is it that all of a sudden you want to shut RT down, but leave all these other propaganda machines up? It's like,
Because it doesn't fit their platform.
no, just like us sitting here telling people, why does the government need any money out of your check? It doesn't pay for anything anyway. You know, that doesn't fit their platform either, but where are we going to go with it? You
Well,
know,
that's why I think we'll ever have we. It's going to be an uphill battle trying to get these things reformed, changed, get people in uh, the political stages that we need to represent us. I mean, you talked about like the the state should appoint people to represent us, not us voting
the
in.
Senate. I think
Right?
the Senate, yes.
Yeah.
I don't think the senators should. I don't think that's the people's hand at all. I think the people need to leave that to your state government, who represents and sends that senator up there to vote on behalf of the state.
You're shaking my table. Careful. Good morning, Kimberly.
That way, the state, when they see bills that are coming out, that's what the senator's job is to make sure, is this something that our state would want or our state wouldn't want.
See, but the way we have it set up now, they're voted in,
Yeah, so the
and they don't
state can't
represent
recall
us
them.
exactly. But if they were appointed by the state and they wasn't doing their job and they wasn't representing us, they could
Oh,
recall them, kick them out, and replace them, and that's the way it
yeah,
should be.
if that a-hole Romney was up there, well, guess what, buddy? You're not going to vote against what we're going to tell you how to vote. He's like, well, I'm a senator. Well, yeah, and we can fix that.
Brenda says they only want the point of view that they agree with or what makes them sleep better, not reality, and that's right.
Well, exactly, which is what when we talked about the blockchain voting, you know, reform. It's all we've ever asked for. Reform. You know, not
Yeah.
to. It's funny that the first episode never got a strike or anything, and it's like, that was kind of radical. We talked reform in a way, a little bit. It's not that. What was your comments in the first one about millions of Americans heading towards DC? It's like, well, you know,
Well, the like the January 6th.
millions of votes that can't be fixed or moved in any way on a blockchain. That's reform. So,
Well, of course.
because I mean, it's like, there's nobody out here who's going to dispute that if you buy Bitcoin, you've got it on your Webull app there, Spoon, and I've got it too. If I want to buy a piece of Bitcoin, well, it knows what account number bought it, and every computer in the registry sees it.
Well, you could coincide
Unfungible.
that, just like we talked about a uh, person running for president. I'm not going to say what election. They don't lose 40,000 votes.
Yeah, well,
Now,
we can't
now,
even talk
the,
about.
now
We
the
don't need.
person above them may stretch out the lead on them 40,000 votes, but they don't lose 40,000 votes. And,
Yes.
and
Well, we ain't.
just like January 6th, we kid about whether that was the worst coup in history or not.
Yeah, it
You
was.
know, they
I mean,
they probably wasn't going to overthrow the government if that's what their
that
thought
truck driver.
was.
Well, my joke was, when we were talking Friday. My joke was that truck driver with the Trump flag hanging off his semi truck sitting in Hagerstown, seeing that happen at 11 a.m., didn't put his cheeseburger down and go join in. Well, that's a bad coup. He just said, "You get them, boys," and then drove on,
Well,
started heading west.
what did you see? The one where the guy was good morning, Sue. uh, giving the guy crap. He was in Canada on the bridge during uh, the Canadian truckers when they were doing their thing up there. He was standing on the bridge. He wasn't in a big truck. He was just in a, I guess, red car, but he was standing on the bridge waving a truck flag. And somebody drove around real slow, and he goes, "You're in Canada, you asshole! Get the fuck out of here!"
Well, that goes back to South Park. What was it? Remember when Mr. Garrison he turned into Trump and was the president of Canada, and he was trying to. Oh no, he ran in Canada as Trump and was fighting the Canadians, and then he come down here and won. Oh, South Park is funny.
Shannon says our Constitution says that the government is to be ran by we the people, and that we the people hold the right to overthrow the government when the government becomes more towards itself than other people. Yeah, we've hit on that many times. I had the
Well, that's
Constitution
first.
with me last
Again,
week.
it's all in the First Amendment. You're allowed to address, to petition your government with a redress of grievances, a legal term. Just like big tech censorship, which happens an awful lot.
Well, our forefathers, they set this Constitution up for our country. They knew, they were smart. They were very intelligent. They knew what was coming down the line, and they set it up. Just like the Second Amendment about having militias and stuff to be able to the people to defend themselves even against its own government. They knew what was coming down the line.
That's why you don't.
Good morning, Angie Graves.
But that's why you don't have you don't have Ford and boots on the ground over here.
But our forefathers warned us many times, and they did not want a two-party system in what they set up.
They didn't want a two-party system. They didn't want a central bank. They didn't want the taxes. We've got all of it.
Federal Reserve, unconstitutional.
Again, a lot of that
payroll tax, inconstitutional.
Well, it is unconstitutional, actually. I mean, I really can't see any way around it when it's.
But the Constitution. People but the Constitution tried to shut down the Federal Reserve. What's happened to them?
Oh yeah, they end up getting shot. You don't mess with the money printer. Because I was trying to explain this to my dad or last week. I was like, Dad, imagine if you was born with the last name of Morgan,
or Rothschild.
Well, one of the percentage owners of the Federal Reserve. Doesn't matter, just pick one. I mean, Rockefeller. One of these robber barons that your family is an heir to the money printer. Are you ever going to worry about money when you can just call up and tell them to print you some?
Well, no.
Well, but then okay. The only sympathetic thing I had for Floyd was the $20 bill. It was it. I was like, all that started because he was passing a counterfeit $20 bill. Well, what's the Federal Reserve doing? Just counterfeiting?
Yeah, that's what
because they got a monopoly on force and they've got a monopoly on the money printer.
What? It's the same when the hedge fund, when the Amazon, GameStop, those
Melvin Capital.
Yeah, those hedge funds guys, they do it all day long. But soon as people like me and you got in on the GameStop and made a little bit of money, that's against the law. We better put these guys in prisons, get our money back.
Well, it wasn't put them in prison. It was like, oh no, we're going to have to print more money. We got to stop this bleeding. But it was, Martha Stewart does a little insider trading, and she gets to wear an orange jumpsuit, and Nancy Pelosi does it and says it's a free market.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And let's get on the plane. Let me take 65 of my relatives to the Bahamas or wherever she's going. Well, that's constitutional too, ain't it?
Pretty much. It's rules for thee and not for me. That should be the war cry from Congress. And I was like, oh man, we need the shaman back in there. I laughed at him. That guy was great.
But if we the people were actually representative and we could get this reform going through, wouldn't you think 99% of the people that would be on board with abolishing the
if you tax, like the sales tax, it would be Bezos buys $1 million part for his rocket. He pays $100,000 in sales tax.
10%. Everybody pays 10%.
Everybody pays, even 5%. But that would be the thing, the platform that a new president would run on. No more going to the money printer. But honestly, you really need to start. I mean, my feelings are you really need to start with the Fed, get rid of them. And but we may need to actually start with like trying to build a blockchain on the voting. I mean, that's voting reform that, where there may be some other choices that, people might not realize that, libertarian candidates could probably win 10, 15, maybe even 20% of the vote. If people started realizing that, then I don't think that the Republicans and Democrats would control anything anymore.
Well, if people would wake up and stop buying into the BS propaganda that these two wings of the same bird feed them, and actually,
that's what I'm saying. You're only allowed to be spoon fed what they approve of.
yeah.
Which is why we got to tell you, we can't let these people see Russian propaganda. Get RT off the air.
Well,
I'm like, isn't that I mean, that's press.
Well, people have this false sense that we live in a free country. In a lot of ways, we do. But to think we're any different
we did in 1860, I think.
To think that we're any different than North Korea or China when it comes to government propaganda and only seeing and hearing what they want us to see and hear, it's no different. It's just not as forthcoming, like,
oh no, they try to hide it. Like,
yeah, over here they try to make you think this is entertainment and we're not forcing this down your throat. But like in North Korea, you can only watch this. The powers that be over here are better at hiding it and better at tricking you into following along like a blind sheep.
Close down the Facebook feeds or shadow ban them or whatever they do with their algorithm to push it where nobody ever sees it. And it's like, that's why they get so offended with Russell Brand or Joe Rogan. Look how big they are. Look at what they're saying. It's not falling into the narrative that the powers that be want. They don't want 5 million or 10 million people hearing that stuff. And that's where I think to myself, you should really start watching those two if you can. It's a lot of good knowledge. I like Crowder too. I mean, Steven Crowder, he's another one of mine go-tos that I listen to. I mean, he's pretty on point.
But even those guys, I like Joe Rogan, I like Russell Brand, but even those guys, they hold back. They tiptoe around.
Well, they have to. I mean, they'll end up like Russia Today. You thought you had freedom of speech? We just call our buddies over there at the Alphabet Corp and tell them to take you off.
There is no freedom of speech in this country anymore.
Mm-mm. Well, that's the thing. The people on the right would be more than happy to ban all communist manifestos. I mean, the book I have, my little red book that we talked about at the beginning, it's not a communist manifesto. It's 100 things you're not supposed to know. By what's his name, Russ Kick. I probably maybe a pseudonym writer or something. But it's a good book. I've read it a couple times. Pretty interesting. But still, my point is, you should never, ever, ever ban speech. Speech needs to be free and flowing, no matter what the person says.
If you don't agree with what somebody is saying,
don't listen or turn it off.
And you try to silence them, that's not freedom of speech.
You're no better than Kim Jong Un or whatever you want to call him.
It's like
or Xi Jinping.
The person that doesn't know me who labeled me as an extremist and a racist because I wasn't speaking their opinion. They wanted to throw out their tirade and their comments and their name calls to me and other people, and they wanted their freedom to do that. But when somebody come back and had an opinion of their own, or told them somebody else had the right to their freedom of speech, no matter if they agreed with the word or not, or the phrase or not, or if it was negative or whatever, then you get labeled extremist and a racist because you think everybody should have the right to freedom of speech.
They
You know,
should. Whether it doesn't, like I said, you don't. No,
me and
that's
you,
that,
me
freedom
and
of
you,
speech is just that. It just says, just
good
like the
morning,
Second
Ron.
Amendment. How do you misinterpret them two? You know, there's no misinterpretation there. You have the right to freedom of speech, which clauses a couple other things: for freedom of the press, freedom of religion, petition your government, peace. Make sure you put the peacefully clause in there. You know,
But see, they even determine what's peacefully.
well, that's what I'm saying. This is, they can just all of a sudden, if you ever heard that coming out of a cop car, this has been deemed an unlawful assembly. Well, at that point, somebody's violating your First Amendment.
Yeah, that's what
But
I'm
you could
saying.
also look at what, like George Carlin was talking about, the number of amendments that we get. England's got a different number, Canada's got a different number. To the Christians out there, I would say inspired by God. No, I don't think so. He can't count then, because we had 10. I can't remember how many Canada has, but they're all different numbers. A lot of different countries have different numbers of rights that are afforded to the people.
Good morning, Bonnie. Good
You know,
morning, Mary
I
Jo.
think that I think our government, you know, set up one of the better systems that had longevity on it. I don't think that our government was ever meant to slow down its growth. Statehood should be looked at where we include people if they want to join. You know, you want to talk about offending China. Imagine if Taiwan petitioned to become State 51. That might upset them just a little
Oh,
bit.
yeah, do you think so?
That would be funny. We could just put another star on the flag and say,
I don't think you would get through day one of Taiwan petition to be the 51st state without China dropping a nuke.
no. I think it would happen. I don't think you know
Well, like you talk about it,
the
our
new
forefathers intended us to keep growing. Why is like Puerto Rico and the ones that want to be part of us? Why have they not
give them
already been
state.
accepted?
Just give it to them. Open it up. Open it up. What do you have to fear? It's just like how we always talked about. We used to talk about felons voting. So why is it so pertinent to everyone's belief structure that if you're a free man, you're not incarcerated? You shouldn't have a right to vote. I say, yeah, let them vote. You know, if they're not in jail and they're voting for something, these days it's going to end up being one of the two parties until we fix that, get some reform there. There's really not much damage they could do.
Well, if a
I
man
mean,
or woman spent their time in jail or prison or whatever,
yeah, well, I was saying
and they're back out a member of society, all their constitutional rights should be reinstated.
they're once they get out, uh, again, remember the whole reason that we fought a war with England. What was the reason we fought a war with England? What was it?
Taxation without representation.
Hmm. Yeah, isn't that what poor criminals that get out of jail and go get a job and try to be in, you know, try to get back into society? Try to as they try to move back into society and assimilate. Then guess what?
They want to tax them, but tell them they don't have any constitutional rights.
Oh yeah, we're going to take your taxes out of your check.
Isn't that the definition of taxation without representation?
That is, yeah.
And I hear this from people all the time. Well, what he murdered people. He's a threat. If
Keep
he's a
him in jail.
threat,
If he's a threat, keep him in jail.
if you let him out, he's no longer a threat. So if he's a threat and you're that scared that he's going to do it again, you shouldn't let him out.
Oh yeah. If you're a free man, you should have all your rights restored instantly. You shouldn't have to go down and petition your governor or get an attorney and then try to figure out how do I get my rights back. That's ridiculous. Your rights should be instantaneously restored upon leaving that system. And then I'm sure there are people that, oh, well, they're on parole. Just stop parole. Simple. Let them finish their sentence, whatever it is.
You're either in or out, right?
Well, that's the way I look at it. In or out. Because I mean, if you people don't understand what the parole is, all it is a money game.
Oh yeah,
for the states to just rack up a huge amount of money.
probation, parole, all that. It's just a money racket. That's it.
I mean, if that's the case, why don't we just let the mafia come back in and start breaking kneecaps for money,
Well,
or
no,
get a portion of your business.
they had to get rid of the mafia because they didn't like the competition.
Well, we know that. We've talked about it many a time. You know,
Well, it's the same. You know my deal. It's the same with the people. If you change a law about something 5 and 10, 15, 20 years, after somebody's gotten a little bit of trouble, and then that law goes back and affects you when you've been clear of it 5, 10, 15, 20 years because they want to change it. That shouldn't happen.
no, no, it shouldn't. There's supposed to be grandfather clauses and stuff like that.
You're right, Shane. Shane says the government keeps us at war with ourselves. The true power is with the people and
That
keeping
goes
them out
back
of
to
their agenda.
Romans. That's the great Roman game of divide and conquer.
Well, that goes along with the whole racism deal. Does racism still exist in our country today? Sure, it does. Does it at a level that the media
is,
wants you to believe? No, they set that up
is it 1940s where there's a white bathroom and a black
so that
bathroom?
we fight amongst ourselves and keep our eyes and attention off what's happened behind the scenes. All right, wake up, people.
Mm. If you treat me good, I'm fine with you. I don't care what color your skin is.
And I would say that is majority of the population. You're gonna
If
have
you
bad. You're gonna
if
have
you're in
bad in every. There's assholes everywhere. I can't defend them.
this, they're assholes. Just don't associate with them. Simple enough. It's your choice to associate. I mean, but at this point, we don't we don't have a choice. We're forced to associate with these tyrants up there at the 10-mile square on the Potomac. I just can't stand anything to do with that Capitol up there. They've completely lost their way, and they're just. I mean,
That's why I told you. You tried to shush me because you was worried about some.
I'm still going to shush you on that one
No,
because the radical video stays up, but when we talk about reform with a blockchain voting that would ensure accuracy and ensure that your vote actually mattered, we get censored for that.
so
It's like
so I'm going to say it again. You take 10% of our population of gun-toting
no,
Americans,
no, 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 no,
and
no.
you march on DC. You can
Lord,
overthrow your
here you go.
government,
And
and you can
they
take back control of your country.
and right now they're going to say, and that's why you shouldn't have a gun. That's what they're going to say.
Well, I I can still have a gun. I just can't have it where they know about it, right? How many Americans have many guns that the government doesn't know about?
Oh, there's a lot of them.
Okay,
And they're trying to find out. They're
you're
trying to
right,
get.
Shane. They are the true mafia.
Oh yeah, no, they. That's what the RICO statutes are for, to get rid of their number one competitor. And we had to get them out of here. The government doesn't like competition.
Like like uh, like we don't all know what happened to the mob boss.
Think about how many millions of dollars the Federal Reserve spent of taxpayer dollars in the 60s and 70s and even into the 80s and 90s trying to spy and always listening to everything that group and organization said. I mean, they went, and that was just, they didn't have to earn the money. If the government was required to be profitable, they would have never done that. They would
No,
have just hoped they caught them eventually, you know. But they're not required to be profitable. Why? Because they can just violate your right to not be a slave and reach into your pocket and take your money. You know,
well,
10% a slave, 20%, you're still a slave.
in the Fourth Amendment, right? Yeah, I think it's Fourth Amendment to be safe and secure.
Person's paper and effect.
No, be safe and secure in your own person.
Person, paper, and effects. Yes.
Yes. So like you said, that how much they spent trying to spy on the mob and listen to them. It's the same thing they do to us today.
Oh, they don't have to. They don't have to get warrants today. Your phone's already tracking you.
Well, or your smart TV or your Echo Dot or your
You
Alexa.
You paid for that. You got to pay for your overlords to be able to hear you. You know,
Your cameras on every street corner, and your cameras in every city or state building that the taxpayers pay for. All that stuff is unconstitutional, but people don't understand that.
is it Trenton, Missouri, across from is that the state from across or the city across from Philadelphia, where they got gunshot monitors up there?
Trenton, what you said? Trenton, Missouri.
Is it Trenton? I think I believe. Yeah, no, that's a bad town, boy. They got a lot of crime. They actually put gunshot monitors up on their street corner cameras. People get crazy up there. You know, right across from the city of brotherly love. You ever been there, Spoon?
Philadelphia, yeah.
Yeah. Oh boy, what a dump. Oh, you're a
But
Philadelphia person. I'm sorry. That place is just
oh, I've been to worse.
abandoned cars everywhere. Cars sitting on blocks. Oh boy.
But you just go back to if these First Amendment auditors, like I'm one, you can go to a public building recording with your phone or your camera you bought, and people freak out on you and tell them you don't have the right to film them, but they're okay with your state and federal government
Yeah, with 10
spending your
cameras.
tax dollars to put cameras up to watch you. But you don't want me to use my First Amendment right for the camera I paid for. I guess if you'd have bought my camera, you'd been okay with it, right?
Well, it's just like when police forces are, when they're forced to release body cams or dash cams. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of instances where they don't want to. I mean, there's no thin blue line here. I mean, I ain't gonna hide it. I think we're over policed. You know,
Well,
who's the
a lot of those body cam videos disappear.
or
So
corrupt?
yeah,
Whoops, it corrupted.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, it didn't work so well.
No, I don't believe in the thin blue line. I think it's a terrorist hate group just like any of the rest.
Look, I'm not saying we don't need police and stuff. I like my sheriffs more. Uh, but for me, it just comes to we don't need as many. We got
I don't hate police. I mean I'm pro good police. But if you're an officer and you think you're a good officer and you don't manage the bad officers and you don't say anything, you don't step up when they do wrong, and you turn a blind eye, you're just as bad as they are. And that happens so many times every day in this country. You
I
know,
want I want Andy Griffith. I don't want these Barney Fives.
well, you and I talked many times on the George Floyd situation. Everybody knows he was a criminal, but everybody knows what the police officer did.
Apparently, he's a saint now.
But everybody knows what the police officer did was wrong. Not only the one that was with his knee on his throat for 9.5 minutes or whatever it was, all the ones standing around him. And that's just one instance that happens in this country on a daily basis. I mean, you both agreed, they should have never let him out of that car. You had him cuffed, you had him in. There's two ways. You take him to the police station, you take him to the hospital.
Well, take him to the police station. If he's in the car and you're committed, you're going to arrest the guy, then just go ahead and arrest him.
But there's too many police in this country who think they're judge, jury, and executioner. When this is the biggest bullshit lie ever told to us people in this country, is that you are innocent until proven guilty. That is the biggest lie you'll ever be told. If someone accuses you of something, you're automatically guilty in the eyes of everyone.
Oh, I know. When I was I got a speeding ticket, and ended up when I turned it into the company, they said, "Oh, we can't use you. You got a speeding ticket." I'm like, "Well, that's an accusation. That's not an admission of guilt." And then I ended up beating it. It was funny because I actually come home on that one, and I sat at home for 4 or 5 weeks and just set up prepared to get unemployment, and that company tried to fight me tooth and nail not to get my unemployment, and then they lost. I mean, well, you ended up paying me. I had a couple weeks vacation on you. Thank you for being a bunch of dumbasses.
That's what I'm saying. And the biggest thing is I try to teach this to all the young men that I get to have the conversation with is never put yourself in a situation that can get you in a whole lot of trouble.
Well,
When
that
it,
was back in
especially when it comes to the opposite sex,
that was
you know.
back at 12 for me when, and that was Ohio back then. 55 for trucks. Guess what? You better do it.
Well, it used to be what Indiana, Ohio, and Illinois. All through there was all
Oh
55.
yeah. Well, Indiana was the better one because you could at least go 60. You know. Now Indiana's the worst of the two.
Because
Because
they're only 65.
Illinois is 70 now. Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
70.
Well, I
Well,
said,
I mean, everybody, there's no dual speed. It's just straight on through. Indiana's 65 and then 70 for cars.
yeah.
And then I think Ohio went up to no dual speed. If it's 70, it's 70. You know,
Morning, Jay.
but no, there's a lot of things that people should try to address, and I really would love to see some real reform if, in my lifetime. Will it come? I don't know.
Morning, Angelina. Well, that's what I'm talking about. We got to get people on board, and people have to stick together. You know,
When
they're
you got,
doing exactly what the government is tending them to do and wanting to do. Everybody's fighting with each other and disagreeing, and you know as well as I do, there's no bigger fight and argument than two friends that one's a Democrat and one's a Republican. They cannot have a mature conversation. They get mad
everybody,
and
everyone's too
they're not
butthurt
friends
on each
anymore.
side.
You know,
Yeah, everybody's too butthurt. Doesn't matter, or get their ass chafed and run away because somebody said something about Trump or
I agree with you, Shane.
got to stop.
They've taken our policemen and women that are supposed to serve and protect and tried to turn them into their little military soldiers.
Oh yeah, they just no. If they dress them like military soldiers, what do you expect them to do? You know, what who's their combatant if they're dressed like a they got their military cargo jeans on and their plate carrier and they're running around. They got an AR-15 sitting. Well they actually get M4s. That's right. They're cops. They're trustworthy. We can give them NFA items. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right.
The biggest discouragement I have is like I told you the story about the school that was getting bomb threats or not bomb
Oh,
threats, but shooting threats, where the mother shows up with her, good morning, Scott, with her vest on underneath her clothes, carrying her gun that she's got a permit for in the school. But the school rules, which we the people pay for, say only an officer can carry a gun. Why is it okay for an officer, but not a parent, a citizen that has their permit that they shouldn't even? I mean, it's unconstitutional. Also,
it's
why you gonna take their weapon from them and put them in jail for them trying to protect their children?
rules for thee and not for me.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
If you're in government, you don't have to follow the rules.
And we the people allow that. Why? I state
Cause
again, we outnumber them
you know,
330 million to 1.5 million. We outnumber them.
there you go again, Charlie. You just can't help yourself.
Well, what I'm not trying to say for 330 million people to turn against 1.5 million people. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying to the people, you're 330 million versus 1.5 million. Why do you allow sit home and drink your Starbucks?
Because that's the snowflake way.
Go get your iPhone, the newest one, and let the 1.5 million people dictate and determine what happens to the rest of us 330 million people.
They're going to force you to do what they want anyway. They are. They're going to send you in the direction they want you to go. I mean, I heard. Well, I think Russell Brand said yesterday a fourth booster's coming or something. I was like,
Oh, Jesus.
boy, here we go. Watch all the people still wearing their masks run in. Oh, please give me the shot. It's like, yeah, hurry up and get the shot that's gonna push you over the edge with all the garbage in it.
What's just like the truckers convoy? How many people do you think was involved in that convoy
I don't know.
when it left?
There's
When it
There were
left,
300,000 K in the group today, I think.
but
300.
when it left Missouri, the one from California, just the one from California, it was like 35 miles long, 2 lanes of people in that convoy. Then you had the South and the Northeast meeting up with the West.
What have they accomplished though? I
But
ain't.
what I'm saying though is, if there was three, we'll just go with that number, 300,000 that went to Washington. What if they were all carrying M4s or AR-15s?
Because according to Washington D.C. law and not being a state, somehow that doesn't qualify for your rights. That's one of the most restricted state or places in this country. Period. And boy, they'd love to put you in jail if they caught you exercising your rights.
But what I'm saying is, some of those people had meetings with Kamala Harris, VP, and a couple other people up there. But what would happen if those 300,000 people marched in there with their M4s and their bazookas and their AR-15s? I'm just saying. I'm asking
You're just
you.
trying to ensure
I'm,
that
I'm
YouTube keeps this one up, huh?
no, screw YouTube. I don't give a shit about it.
I know. I don't give a shit about YouTube either.
But what I'm saying, I'm talking about from me to you. What do you think would have happened if 300,000 people of that convoy were armed, and after the meeting they didn't like how the meeting goes, and they said, "Well, now we're going to determine how the meeting goes."
Yeah. Well, the propaganda machines are going to turn on and tell everybody how wrong that was. However, they would love to see it in Red Square over in Moscow, wouldn't they?
Oh yeah.
Oh, they'd love to see that. They'd love to see them running in there with their AKs saying, "Hey, we're going to take this government back." You know, again, you can't
Putin's
talk
time
out
is
of.
limited.
Huh?
I think Putin's time is very limited. I think he's done a lot of damage to his reputation.
The only thing I can hope for right now is that, and I want Americans to be watching in April. Um, it seems to me like you better hope that right now China is realizing how much of a unified pushback from the West Russia got for what they did, and maybe China won't move on Taiwan.
Oh, they've been itching to.
Oh, they want to. It's in their law. That's the thing. Chinese law says that Taiwan is theirs. It's their land, and they want to reclaim it. But
But the thing that really scares me is, I don't know if you agree or not, but Putin's time is winding down. He didn't have the greatest support in his country before this, and he has very little now. But that man, he has been wanting to try his nukes. So if it came to them trying to force him out, then they're going to force his hand. That's what I'm scared of. I'm scared of him taking his shot, going, "Well, I'm out anyway. I might as well just go ahead and do what I'm going to do and start dropping nukes." Because he already knows he's done. He's out. He's dead. What does he care what damage he does to others? He don't care now.
he doesn't have to
Morning,
be dead.
Cheryl, Randy.
It would, he is in that little club. You know, the little club of being a world leader. If he stepped down and resigned away peacefully, I'm sure that all the other powers that be wouldn't be out to kill him.
Well, no, probably
No, no,
not. No,
no. They follow the old world game of chess. You never kill a king.
but you do know that Putin's not in Russia. He's not home in Russia right now as this fighting's going on.
I don't know where he's at.
He's staying at the presidential suite in Trump Towers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Shane, I disagree with you, buddy. Maybe 300,000. Yeah.
300.
30 million be a little different. He said they would never make it to Washington. 300,000 people can't go unnoticed. They would get blown to bits before they left the rally point.
No, that's where the government won't do that. The doctrine of that would be we lose as soon as you fired upon people heading towards you know to petition government for redress of grievance. As soon as you've done that, you've lost.
Oh yeah. Why don't
That's like
the,
I mean Putin.
the
As soon as Putin started doing all the firing of the missiles, even the island when they bombed that island, for um, you're saying fuck you,
yeah,
you know,
when the Islanders,
go fuck yourself.
yeah.
Yeah, when the island said go fuck yourself. I mean, that was a rally call.
But
And
remember
then the
the
ship opened up fire.
one of the first statements Putin made when he started the attacks was what?
Going to
We
free
we
the
are
Ukrainians.
we are not going to fire upon
Oh,
innocent
civilians.
civilians.
Oh yeah, no, they're doing it all the time. I don't care.
But your point, if 300,000 people were at a rally point going to DC and our
Well,
government,
all of a sudden, Apaches show up on the scene, and everybody's got their live stream cameras, and then somebody with a bullhorn yells back, "Go fuck yourself," and then they open fire. Well, guess what?
that would be government
That would
suicide.
be well, that's martyrdom. That's the definition of martyrdom. You've done committed martyrdom. You know, you may have lost the battle, but that doesn't mean the war is going to be lost because there's going to be a rally cry. You know, and people will have it. It will go up on computers. It'll be pulled off the internet real fast by the smart people out there who understand technology and save it, to preserve it for later. And eventually, news medias that don't require the permission of the digital gods at Google or Facebook, those, the news organizations, when they play it, they don't need that permission. They can push it out there, which like, wherever channel is it, Channel 4 runs Nashville or something, they can put it up. They don't have to worry about blowback or consequence or strikes. I'm still laughing about that. That is so funny.
Yeah, I said 300,000 armed citizens. Yeah, I said that, Shane. But I'm talking about my original thought was 10% of our country. That would be 30 million. And if you recalled
You
everybody that's in the military, that's uh,
in a numbers basis, not
that's
even close.
active and non-active in our country
But
and
the thing
abroad,
is,
that's 1.5 million versus 30 million. That's not a fight. Don't tell me my military is going to win because I can guarantee you 75% of the military is not going to fire upon its citizens.
mm-mm.
No.
I mean, the cops would. I think. I mean, look what's in Russia rounding up everybody in Red Square. It's cops.
Yeah.
You know, they're following their orders. They're being good little, you know,
Good little
Putin
soldiers.
Putin tyrants. You know,
But see, there's a little bit different over there. Morning, Ricky. A lot of them are scared of
being sent off to a gulag.
what Putin and the government will do to them. Over here, that wouldn't be so much the case. Would a lot of you police, fall in line? Sure, they would. But you can't tell me. Let's talk about this rationally. You can't tell me that our military men and women that are just like us, except for they're fighting for our freedom in a sense. Now they fight political wars; they don't fight people wars. That they would turn on their citizens that are trying to overthrow or eradicate a demonized government, an unconstitutional, out of control political basis, and just turn on them and start killing their people. I'm sure there's going to be a few that would, but like I said, you got 300. What would you figure? 330 million people over here.
There was a, you know, H. I do, even though I can see the narrative. There was a episode on HBO about January 6th, and it was pretty in depth. It was really good, and the guy it started out with was one of those cops that people like me and you would probably just say he doesn't deserve to have that title. He had all the tattoos, like the, uh, looked like ex-military, cop, and they were interviewing him. He opened it, and and then you end up seeing him in a lot of the videos of January 6th when they were trying to push into the tunnel. He was up there, up close and personal, and he was talking about how, I mean, he over dramatized how bad it was.
They
Um,
opened the doors and let them in.
oh, I know they did. Some of them did bust their windows. I won't say they didn't, but what was it Red said the other day about he said, I've never thought I was an anarchist until I seen January 6th, and that's when I realized maybe I am, because he was cheering them on,
But the
telling them
bus,
to push on in there and take it.
who Eric was?
Hmm.
Yeah,
He
but
was.
they wasn't there to take it. It was all show.
I get no. The people didn't know what they were doing. They don't know what they followed into. I think it was planned. It's maybe next week I need to. You seen that video of the lone gunman, didn't you? That I sent you?
It was planned by the Orange Man.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it
It was
was.
not.
Yeah, it
No, it
was.
wasn't.
He
No, well,
he
we
he
disagree
he
there.
he was wanting them people to do that. Yes, he was. If you can't sit there and tell me with rational thought that
No,
the Orange Man
it was.
bad
It's
was
above
not
Orange
wanting the
Man.
people to do that bad.
It's
I didn't
above
say.
Orange Man.
Oh no.
Oh yes, it's above
You
Orange Man.
feeded more to the media than I think. Then
No,
you
I
don't think
think it.
you don't think he didn't have a part in that? That he wasn't sitting back laughing and
I
chuckling.
think the CIA was behind that, and they wanted it to happen. They wanted it. That's what I'm saying. You know,
Is the CIA
there
still
are
run by a
there
book?
are there are a lot of people out there that were there that aren't arrested now and were there at the beginning. They were instigators. And there was one man, and there were some clips of him talking, and there's something he says, and there's no record of it. Nobody can find it in any videos, and they're trying to figure out who he's talking to and what he's saying, because he was there at the beginning, and he was considered a big instigator, but he's not arrested. He's not arrested. Now explain that.
They
That's
pick
all
and
I want to know. Why didn't
they,
they arrest him? They
they
arrested the shaman,
they pick and
who
choose who
just
they want to
the
arrest.
I say shaman was Orange Man Bad's walk in there. Yes.
Okay,
You know, he like, QAnon says so, I'm going. Shaman, sure. He was comical to me. He was funny, just like, but that series on HBO where people were smoking weed in the Capitol. It was funny. I was like, oh, yeah, well, you know, you could finally smoke what the Declaration of
but
Independence is
but if,
written on.
but if you've seen some of those videos and clips before I'm sure they took most of them down. They didn't even. A lot of those wasn't even. They didn't even try to stop anybody from coming in. That's
No,
what
there was not.
the busting out the windows. That was just for show.
Well, no. Look, I understand there was vandalism that took place, but when it took place, and they
But what?
just
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. What building is that?
what? It's the People's Building. It's a house. It's a Capitol.
Okay. So if it's the people's building, and
Nobody was trespassing.
we the people
Nobody was
paid for
trespassing.
that, then we didn't
No,
trespass and we didn't vandalize anything because it's ours, right?
well, no, yes,
Ours.
it's true, but still, I think it exactly hysterical because you see what come from it. Usually, you have to wait a little while and see what comes down the pike to find out who who wanted it. You know, do I think I don't think that wasn't no Trump plot.
I'm not saying it was just a Trump plot. I'm just
No, no, no.
saying
I'm saying if you go to HBO and you watch the video about it, the documentary about it, you know, Trump was speaking when they were going into the Capitol. They were already there was a separate group that went to the Capitol first. The big mass of people didn't come over until after Trump got done speaking. But there was already people going in. Those people were ahead that went there. I mean, it was a group of like 1,000 or 1,500 people went over to the Capitol building while Trump was speaking. And one of the leaders of that group isn't arrested and hasn't been charged with anything.
I'm gonna ask
I
you
would
this.
love to see his taxes and where he gets paid.
I'm gonna ask you this.
Hmm.
Out of all the people who were there protesting January 6th, what do you think the percentage of them were Orange Man Bad supporters, diehard supporters? And I'm not talking about the ones that the CIA or whoever you want to say placed there.
100%.
All right, you think 100% of those are? I would
It
I would say
not on
they.
the government payroll. 100%. Yes.
Okay. So we are in agreement, just not how it all went down
They
per
didn't
se.
realize they were being used. You know. Now government payroll. I don't know where you would want to. How far and broad that you open that one up to. You know, government payroll by you know different black ops or different organizations. Sure. But I really do want to get that clip that you did watch that, right, with the plane flying into the towers.
Yeah.
We need to get that
The
clip and figure out how to put it up here so we can let our
what's the name of it? I never forgot the name of it.
the lone gunman. It's
The
on
Lone Gunman.
YouTube.
Yeah,
It's the lone gunman
it's only like
episode,
what
pilot
four
episode.
4 minutes, three
Yeah,
58.
it's not very long. It's 4 or 5 minutes. Uh, but if you go to YouTube, there's somebody who has it up. It's called the Lone Gunman pilot episode.
Oh my God, it's gonna get pulled down now.
Well, I don't know. It's got some views. But when you see that, it should be it should wake you up. It should really wake you up to say that I don't care how much I disagree with the other side of the aisle. I mean, we've got an uphill battle because we disagree with both sides of the aisle. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
And it's kind of like I don't where we do agree. I think with most people is freedom. That's all. That's all I want. I want freedom.
Well, that's what this country was founded on: freedom.
Turn the turn the turn the cows loose. You're a smart man. You're an individual. You can go do it for yourself. Go have your freedom. That's all that matters.
But
But
just like January 6th, I feel like it was all planned, just like any of the other
everything
government
else,
years.
no, there's
The Kennedy assassination, 9/11. I Nobody will ever convince me unless they come out with all this information and facts to back it up
I want to see
that this was a true terrorist act. It was not.
you
It was an internal terrorist act.
you everyone should be filing FOIAs to get the camera footage from the hotel across the street from the Pentagon. You want to know? There's cameras that caught what happened.
Oh, they
Not
probably
just a
destroyed all that.
they probably play it out there at Bohemian Grove when they're running around naked in the woods, being gay. They probably do that. Yeah.
But me and you talked about that plane that they claim hit the Pentagon.
Mm, that wasn't a plane. Ain't no way.
Well, the maneuver that the pilot had to make.
That was a maneuver for a fighter pilot, a fighter jet.
Not no recently trained to fly terrorist.
not
No.
not moving that big ass, Boeing around. No.
So anybody that believes that bullshit propaganda that 3 4 week 6 week trained
Watch. I mean, there's so many
foreigner
cameras.
made that
There's.
maneuver with that plane and crashed in the Pentagon. If you're buying that bullshit, me and Puddin both got
Oh
beachfront
yeah, I got
property in
some.
Arizona. We'll
I
sell you.
got. Oh no, I'm gonna be even better. I got you some beachfront property in Nebraska. You know, land's real cheap out there. I can get you a lot of it. But I mean, it's kind of like all them cameras, and all you've got are like what 3 stills from a parking camera. That's all they've released. Just like even you know Vegas when they did the shootings there. Where's all Mandalay Bay's security footage? I mean, you try to sneak an extra ace out on your card table down there, they're going to catch it. Don't pull an ace out of your sleeve.
But all that supposed weaponry and
Yeah,
ammo and stuff that
it
he carried
just
up.
magically moved up to that room, and we have zero footage. I don't know, corrupted. And the day before, they said that there was a big sell-off in the I think it was MGM was the owners of that resort, the MGM Resorts. I think they're the ones that own Mandalay Bay, and they said there was a massive sell-off the day before it happened. Oh, well,
Well,
it's
I mean,
kind of like 9/11. It's like when I seen it, I was like, oh my god, there's going to be 5-10,000 dead people in New York, and then the numbers come out, and I was like, what? That's it?
well, it's because they had a meeting, what, the day before, a couple of days before. I can't remember what 9/11 was on. Was that, do you remember what day it was? Was that a
I don't remember
Monday
the
or what?
exact
But anyway,
day. Mm.
they had a big meeting. It was only like less than half of the people were actually in the buildings at work that day. The other
Yeah,
people, the people that wasn't supposed to die, wasn't there.
yeah.
They were
No,
somewhere else.
they got the calls. Hey, don't go to work. Mm. And I wonder if they sit around and they say, well, at least somebody loves me. But
And don't think like we're taking this lightly for all the
no,
people that lost their lives. That we're not. We're talking about the government conspiracy side of it. That was a very
I wouldn't say it's conspiracy. I would say the government story is a conspiracy. Yeah. If you believe the government line, they're the conspirators.
what the point we're trying to get
They're
across to
not
people
open and transparent on any of it.
is that if you trust your government or you think they care about you, you're
You're
sorely mistaken.
you have you're doomed.
There's so many things that's happened in history that you can go back and look at and research and learn from. And just in the recent history, Waco, the Bundys, 9/11, all the different school shootings. I know people might not agree with it, but
Now
there's paid actors that survived 2, 3, and 4 different school shootings. Not saying that those things didn't happen, but the dramatization that they put behind it didn't happen. Um, you can go back as far as Wounded Knee. What was the other one?
which one?
Where they went up in the cabin, yeah, on the land in the cabin, and shot him and his wife and kids.
Oh, Ruby Ridge.
Ruby Ridge.
Oh.
Look at, if you don't know what we're talking about, look up and research Ruby Ridge, Wounded Knee, Waco.
Well,
Now, you know,
that's the that was the funny one to me when they said after Vegas, they said the biggest mass shooting in U.S. history, and I'm sitting there thinking, wait, with Wounded Knee, they killed almost 200 Indians. What are you talking about? Almost the biggest mass shooting? You're wrong. That's unfactual. Oh, that's right. The bullets were coming from government guns, so that doesn't count.
so if you think your government won't do that, they
They
went to them
mowed
and
down. They mowed down Indians in the 1890s, or it was 1880s, 1890s. They mowed them down. They didn't care. And if you think your government won't do that to you, oh,
but at Wounded Knee, they went to them trying to be all
it
peaceful and taking
was
their
it
guns.
was it was it was revenge and retribution against Custer and what happened at the Little Bighorn. That's what it was. Custer screwed up, got into the fight with the Indians. The Indians had their win, and then when they came to discuss peaceful negotiations and surrenders and showed up without their weapons, guess what? They got mowed down like cattle. They just didn't care, and there's photos on the internet. You can probably still find them where soldiers were posing with they mowed down women and children. They didn't care.
No, they
They
don't care
just
today.
lit them Gatling guns up and just started firing.
Your government today is no different than the government then. They don't care
Mm,
about
no.
the
But
people.
see, that was where I can't remember the guy's name. When I was a Tea Partier back in '09, I was big in the Tea Party, and that's where I started doing my what? What's that?
Across the Tea Party.
Oh well, I thought she was like, huh? You're like I'm a vampire or something. But yeah, the Tea Party though I used to listen to both sides. I listened to both sides. I had Sirius in my truck, and I'd listen to the right and the left channel. And I kept hearing those right wing people praising like Carnegie, and I was like, what? You know, at first I had to go research it, but there was one guy that used to praise him all the time, like the big steel baron praised him like he was something special. So I was like, do some research on this guy. Well, he built a dam in Johnstown, at his in the mountains for his little buddies to have a lake where they could go floating around in their little rowboats and golfing. It was a resort for his elite friends, and the dam wasn't built properly. And they knew there were problems with the dam because there was some erosion that was giving way. And if you've ever heard of the Johnstown flood, well, he caused it. All right. And then you can go back in history and see when the steel workers that worked for him in Pittsburgh were trying to strike, he hired the Pinkertons. The Pinkertons were a mercenary militia group that came out of the Civil War. And when the people were striking, trying to get better wages, instead of paying them more wages, he hired the Pinkertons to come in and put down the Union style tactics of demanding better wages. Why would anybody praise that man? I don't care if in his later years he turned into a philanthropist with all his money. Why didn't he do it through the years that the plant was running? Why not be a philanthropist for the people who are making you money? If they're making you money and you're making 10 to 1, then go ahead. Give them some more money.
Morning, Josh, Richard.
Well, that's where I have disconnects with the Republicans because they praise these people like they did something.
Rush Limbaugh. Oh my God, I can't stand that guy. I think he passed now, didn't he?
He's passed. Yes,
I mean, God rest his soul. I'm sorry, but I, I I tried over and over and over to listen to him, just to have an open mind,
it,
and I did listen to him, but
I tried to.
I couldn't do it anymore.
He's at the top of the pyramid. He wants to keep the ants at the bottom in line. He doesn't want to upset the balance of power. He's made it to the top. You know, just like Howard Stern or any of these other people that make it to the top. The ones I respect are the ones that get up to the top and aren't trying to, you know what I mean? They're trying to tell the truth.
There's few and far between those, though.
Only a handful. Ain't very many. But sometimes more so the people that I think, like music bands and the music they put out in their videos. I think more of that's, you know, being truthful and honest and trying to tell you in song the problems.
What's the same? It's the same thing with the movies. We talked about that. What Dark Knight Rises.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of
What,
stuff in there. Just
what,
like
whether you watch a movie or you listen to a song, more so in movies, as far as the government, but also some in songs, they're telling you things. You just got to listen and pay attention. That's why I told you, like when and you do the same thing. We don't watch something once.
I
You got to watch it 3 or 4 or 5 times because you always miss something. There's something there. They're telling you something. You got to be looking for it. You got to be paying attention. Like
Hollywood puts a lot of things in there, like little secrets.
like you thought you said you thought the Starbucks cup at Game of Thrones was an accident.
I think they were well. All right, disagree with me that the last episode or last season wasn't massively compressed and over rushed.
Yes, it was.
Okay, that's why I think it was really
Or was it, to my way of thinking, that we have everybody so brainwashed, Starbucks, that all they care about is their Starbucks coffee and their new iPhones and this and that. They don't really care about the real problems that affect us, the people in this country. Or do you think that's overthinking that too much?
I don't know. But no, I just like I said, I think it's I really think it was rushed. You don't disagree. It was
It
rushed and
was
compressed.
massively rushed, and I understand what they say and why they say they did it, but there was so
financials.
yeah, there was so much more to be able to keep going with this, and
Oh, I know.
and at least if you wasn't, at least don't rush it. Take your time. Extend the final season to 9 or 10 episodes instead of what was it, 6, 7?
I
And
don't remember. It was
I
definitely.
think it was 7
Well,
because they
yeah.
started out they was 10, and then I think the next to last season went to like 9 or 8, and then the last season was 7. But at least take your time, do the episodes, get the story right. Everybody was so mad about how it ended, um, but that doesn't take away about how great a show it was for what 10 years or so.
Yeah.
The Walking Dead. It's one of my favorite shows,
Not me.
and
Not me.
and here the last. This is they're doing. I think we're on part 2 of 3 of the final season, and they got me so upset and pissed off about the way they went with this.
I
But I've liked it for so long, I'm going to finish watching it. But
I liked the first season. It was different. And as the second season started winding down, and then it got into I completely just the third season. I said, I'm done with this. I just,
so you never even watched till you got to the Negan part, right?
mm-mm,
Oh, you would have loved that so
no,
much.
I don't want it.
You'd have been going. You would have been a big
No, no, no,
Negan
no, no,
fan.
no, 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 no.
You'd
No.
have been a big Negan fan.
As in hindsight, when you're in Atlanta, Georgia, you wake up at a hospital. Talk about episode 1,
Yep.
and you're walking out of a hospital with a military base on there, and there's not an M4 to be seen. But there's no zombies running around carrying M4s. I mean, they didn't have any decent weaponry through the whole first season at all. Really, wasn't none.
Well, I'm gonna defend them here because when this first started, that first season, they didn't put a whole lot of money in it. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
there was. I understand there wasn't a lot of money, but
And
you're going to tell me that they couldn't afford to head down and buy you know, an M4.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is when they started The Walking Dead, because I started watching it from episode 1,
The Colt
and
Python was worth what three M4s?
the first season they didn't have a whole lot of buzz going around it, and I think there was more faith from them than really saying, "Hey, I'm going to put a lot into this because I know it's going to work." They were more doing it by faith. Hey, let's see if it's going to work, and they almost canceled it after the first season,
They
and they
should
went
have.
ahead and done a second season, and then when it hit the second season, it caught on to the majority, and then the third. People like you
No,
walked away from it.
people like me, I'm unforgiving because you can't go back and to me it's like, oh well, now we've got big money coming in, let's polish this turd. It's like,
I understand where you're coming from, but you got to look at it from a different point of view. You want other people to have open minds. You got to have open mind about it. When
it's not
somebody was
that
throwing,
the story, the way the storyline moved, I just kind of said no, I'm not. This isn't a good zombie series.
but it but everybody gets that misconstrued. This was not a series about zombies. Yes, were zombies in it? Yes. Were they a big part of it? Yes. The story and the show was about how the people would react, respond, and cohabitat in the zombie apocalypse, not about the zombies themselves.
I know.
So,
I understand the point. I just, you know,
see, I'm reversing you. You kind of went off season 2. I was in it from season 1. I was hoping let's go season 2, and I rode the wave up with them, and I stayed with them, and now we're on the last season of part 2 and 3, and it over the last few seasons, it slowly, yeah, give me the bird. It slowly declined to a level that if I wasn't a viewer from day one and followed it this long, I wouldn't watch it anymore. Because, like, your main character Rick a few seasons back. A helicopter picked him up and flew him out of there, and it led like the story was going to come around to that. And he hadn't been on the show since, and he was one of your main characters. And then Maggie was gone for a few seasons,
I'm
but
talking
now
about
she's back.
Rourke, Mickey Rourke or whatever.
No, Rick, the cop.
Didn't he get killed?
No, he he was injured, and the 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 storyline of somebody that she called in the people that had the helicopter, and her and Rick flew off with the people from the helicopter, and they were supposed to come back around to that, but it never has. That Maggie was gone for a couple seasons. They had that storyline, and now Michonne's gone for the past season or so. That's what I'm saying. They went around this circle of things that they were supposed to come back to, and it's not going to happen, I don't think. If it does come back to where Rick's on there, they're already on part 2 of 3, which is only a few episodes per part. So if they come back to him at the very end of part 3 of like the last episode, it's going to be just like the Game of Thrones.
Well, Mr. Crossbow, what I was talking about was Mr. Crossbow's brother. Yeah. What was his name?
You talk about Daryl?
The one with the crossbow.
That's Daryl.
Yeah. Well, his brother or whatever.
Yeah, his brother. His brother's
cut his hand off or something, got his hand cut off and then burned it or something and disappeared, and he never showed back up.
Phillip. Oh, yeah, he showed back up.
Well, later, I don't know.
Yeah.
How many seasons?
It was either season 2 or season 3. He was back.
Not for the whole season, I think.
He was there pretty much for all of it, yeah.
I just started checking out. I'm sorry. It just didn't have the captivating storyline.
Yeah, but you're also a person that doesn't like Vikings. And if for anybody that's ever sat and watched Vikings, that's a great show. It's almost up there with Game of Thrones.
No.
Yes. And The Last Kingdom. You ever watch any of The Last Kingdom? Try watching The Last Kingdom. The Last Kingdom. It's up there with Game of Thrones also.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I like to watch my information. I like to learn.
The Last Kingdom is Uhtred was born a Saxon but raised a Dane.
Okay.
Because the Vikings raided his village, but he was the only one they let survive, and they took him home and raised him as one of their own.
Oh well. But I guess we're at the...
Yeah, we've got off topic so much that I guess we can.
Yeah, we didn't even get to my red book I brought with me today.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. Well, you didn't want
to. There is a God.
You didn't want to go to Exodus 22 through 17 and see the suggestions.
Oh, yeah, I'm good with anything.
Then you don't want to go see when Moses come down with the rules in Exodus 31:18 and then later in Exodus 34.
Right. We're not going to get into that. I'm not going to.
Well, Exodus 34:13 through 28, that's where you see the real enumerated 10 commandments in the King James. You don't want to get into that?
We'll get into that next week.
All right, red book of knowledge.
You have your red book, and I'll have my big King James version.
Okay, and you can read it. Maybe you can read it for the people who have a Bible study in the morning.
There you go.
And then I'll show you that.
I'm always good for a Bible study.
Thou shalt not kill is not a 10 commandment. That's the crazy thing.
Thou shalt not murder.
Murder, whatever. Thou shalt not murder is not. That's not a 10 commandment. It's a suggestion. If you follow the story, it's a suggestion Moses tells the people. He goes up on a mountain, comes down, smashes the tablets, goes back up, and comes down with a new set of tablets.
I said let's hold that for next week.
Okay, we'll hold it for next week.
No spoiler alerts.
Spoilers. Whatever.
All right, guys. I hope y'all enjoyed it. This wraps up episode 4. We'll be back next week for episode 5. So thanks to everybody that had comments and tuned in, and thank you to all of y'all that'll watch it later. Right. This is the Big Spoon and the
Puddin.
We're out. We'll see you next week.
All right. See everybody later.